Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Hargrove Engineers and Constructors is proud to support LPB. Since 1995, Hargrove has been employee-owned and relationship-driven. With 2,700 teammates around the world, Hargrove works as one team to go beyond expectations.
You have what it takes to begin your journey: curiosity, ingenuity, intellect, determination. Through a vast portfolio of affordable and in-demand academic programs, hundreds of student-focused activities, and wraparound services, Southern University meets you where you are, giving you the tools and support that lead you to a successful career in the sciences or the arts. Begin with your goals anywhere. Finish stronger at Southern University at subr.edu.
The Rolf Pugh Agency is proud to support this program. Based in Louisiana, Rolf Pugh has provided marketing services nationwide since 1981, partnering with clients in healthcare, retail, automotive, and more. For more information, visit rpagency.com. With additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Northwestern State University, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you. And we are off and running. Great to have you with us for Game Notes here on LPB. That is my Super Bowl champ partner, Scott Shanley. I'm Victor Howell. We are making the turn, coming down the home stretch. It always gets exciting when we get into the month of November, Scott, and even more so this week because for the first time in a while, we have Louisiana teams riding victories. It was a tough couple of weeks for some of our teams here in the state, but last weekend was very good moving into this first full weekend in November.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of everything. We've had teams trying to figure out quarterbacks. We've had teams now figuring out who their coaches are going to be coming up soon.
Yeah.
But I think right now what you're seeing is you're seeing teams who know what their identity is, and these games are starting to matter. They're starting to matter more week in and week out. So I think this is an exciting time of year.
Yeah, we've got a lot. We're going to talk about that scenario at LSU coming up, but let's start off with one of the hottest teams, maybe the most consistent team in all of the state, and that's the Lions from Southeastern. Frank Selfo said from the start of fall camp he felt like he had a good ball club. He was interested to see how the team would develop, having added some new faces, but so many players that were coming back over there in the Hammond area. The Lions now sitting undefeated against FCS competition so far this season. The two losses against FBS teams. They are in first place in the South End Conference, and they are getting ready for a huge matchup this afternoon on the road at Lamar.
Lamar obviously is, because of what we've done throughout the course of the season and what they've done throughout the course of the season, it's a huge game. It's got playoff ramifications and conference championships into play, but it's, again, it's one more game for us. And going over there is going to be, that's a tough place to play. We had a lot of trouble last year, ended up winning on a kick at the end of the game. But I know that's a very well-coached football team.
Lamar stumbled last week against defending champ UIW. The Lions rolled to another big win, thanks in part to the efforts of Jalen DiMaggio. This week, named the Conference Offensive Player of the Week, and why not? 4 catches, 157 yards, including that game-opening 82-yard touchdown pass. He also had 2 touchdowns overall on the night and leads the Southland Conference with 8 touchdowns. And then there's Dekai Joseph. He earned a Conference Special Teams Player of the Week. He returned a punt for a score and actually ranks 8th nationally in punt return yardage. It's a situation for Selfo where he sees the loyalty of his players and the culture they're building together as reasons for his November wave of momentum.
Success breeds a lot of that, right? When you're having success, then I think that goes a long way. But I think the biggest thing is the amount of unselfishness and unselfish players we have on our football team. It starts with our senior class and what those guys have been able to do for us over the however many years. And that's why it's so important for us to be able to keep guys here. They grow up in this culture and they learn to love it, and they stay here. They don't want to leave here. So being able for us to raise money, put it towards NIL, be able to supplement these guys to pay their bills, buy groceries, that's what's so critical for us right now, to be able to keep these guys long term so that they're going to be here for 4 and 5 years. And all that goes hand in hand with the culture that you're seeing on the field each and every Saturday.
It's that experience that you just don't see much anymore because of the nature of college football. And the Lions, while they've been explosive on offense, look at what the defense has been doing. 3rd ranked against the run, 3rd passing. When you average it all up, they're number 2 overall in the conference. They're first with sacks. And boy, when you face the Lions, Scott, if you get the third down, good luck, because they're good there and they're even better on fourth down situations. Number one overall as a unit. And it was interesting, Scott, to hear Frank Selfo talk about the culture there, because we talked about it all season long. Rarely are you finding teams that have guys who are fourth year, fifth year, sixth year guys like the Lions have been. We've looked at their two quarterback system. We know about DiMaggio at the wide receiver. But on the other end, there are some defensive players at each level that have been outstanding for the Lions that have them gotten to this point.
Every level, defensive line, linebackers, secondary, but also from the state of Louisiana. So to Coach's point, these guys are staying home. They're staying in the program. They're growing up in the program. It makes a big difference as far as your building culture. Caleb Proctor, we talked about him all year, going back to the LSU game. He dominated that LSU game. Get pressure every single week. He's the sack master. You go KK Reno at the next level linebacker, team's leading tackler. So they're highly productive guys. And then the secondary, Ian Connerly-Goodley. Third interception last week again. So guys who are going to have an opportunity to play on Sunday, making plays on Saturdays right now, and just seeing the fit of these guys in the locker room is impressive.
Yeah, and we've talked about that matchup with Goodley. Remember, he left, went to Troy, decided, you know what, maybe it's not better going to a little bigger conference. Came back. But that ability, and you and I were even talking about this early this morning before the program here, about you just don't see cultures anymore. Everybody's wanting to move. But what he's building, even at this level, he's talking about NIL. He's talking about the importance of bringing these kids back and what they mean to the city of Hammond and what the city of Hammond means to the Lions. And we're seeing it right now. Their two losses were to Louisiana Tech and LSU. Other than that, they've run the slate so far.
Yeah, and we showed the impressive stats. Defensively, we know they're playing great. The two-headed monster at quarterback's playing really good. Special teams has been outstanding. I think the number one stat for me when you look at this team that tells you just how good they are in the FCS, they lead the FCS in scoring margin. Offensively averaging 47 points a game, defense giving up 12 points a game. That's a pretty big margin. FCS, you can see why they lead. They're going to be a tough team to beat.
Take a look at why this game is so big this afternoon for them on the road over there in Texas, because Lamar stubbed its toe 1 week ago against defending champ UIW. So it's Stephen F. Austin and Southeastern, the last two undefeated teams in conference play, and they don't play each other. Still remaining for the Lions after they play this afternoon against Lamar. It's UIW, the defending champs, and then the big one against Nicholls. So you see just why this game is so important this afternoon. We look forward to recapping it on Sunday, but it will be a fun one to watch on ESPN+. Hey, don't look now, but the Colonels from Nicholls, they're on a win streak, and they're playing very well. Remember, they opened up the season with a win over UIW, the defending champs. Struggled a little bit getting out of conference, but now that they're back in it, they are rolling just fine. Sitting in third place, as you saw on the graphic, at 3-2 in South End Conference play. What's been one of the secrets for the Colonels? Well, first-year head coach Tommy Rybacki has newfound confidence because of Ian Rodri, the newly found quarterback for the Nicholls Colonels, who has stepped in. He's a redshirt sophomore from the Thibodaux area, and he has led the team to back-to-back wins. Recently, I had a chance to talk to first-year head coach of the Colonels about making the turn down the home stretch of the season and what he's focusing on as a coach with building this team. What have you talked about to the team heading into this weekend and then kicking off the month and the stretch run in November? Because when you look at it, you're still right in there, even though, again, not all the results have gone the way you wanted. It's still a really big fight in the South End Conference. What are the goals you've talked about with the team and what you want to see them do?
Yeah, as the weather starts to turn and the season goes on, you get into late October and early November. And one of my mentors, Pete Jenkins, always talks about it, that you're always going to remember the teams of late October and early November. So despite the fact that things didn't go the way we wanted them to early in the season, we have an opportunity to play well down the stretch and really make some things happen as the games go on and the conference picture lays out the way that it will over the last few weeks.
Last question, Coach, is really more for you on a personal side. You know, Matt Viator, the head coach of McNeese, who you just beat 1 week ago, going into that game, said over the last 10 years, and I know Coach Rebo was the head coach and you were on staff, he said nobody really did it any better in the South End Conference than the Colonels. And then you guys go out and put on the performance that you did. For you, you are midway through going into the stretch run of your first season as a head coach. How have you grown from when we visited back in late August, early September to now here, end of October, early November?
Yeah, just continuing to work at the craft, continuing to get better on the day-to-day things. And, you know, as time goes on, you know, the things that you're doing, you continue to improve at them because you're conscientious about where you may have fell short and where you can do better. And so I've been, you know, just throughout the season, continuing to go day by day and take good notes, identify areas where I can improve and focus on those things as we go from week to week.
And we'll see how that focus turns out this afternoon. It's a 5 o'clock kick on the road at Texas Rio Grande Valley. The Vaqueros, even though the record doesn't show them near the top, they are the highest scoring team in the Southland Conference at 43 points a ball game. Ethan Lee for the Colonels has 3 picks this season. That's tied for second in the conference. It'll be a good one to see if the Colonels can make it 3 in a row. They'll try to do it on the road, and the game can be seen on ESPN+. Question for you. Has there ever been a time when LSU is about to face Alabama in football, but talking about the game was like the 4th or 5th thing on the list in terms of topics? It's been a week of follies in Baton Rouge, but now it seems like the dust has settled. The university system now has a president. They've now named an athletic director to go find a new permanent head coach, and now we can get back to talking football on the field. For LSU to even sniff a chance at getting a victory over Alabama, interim head coach Frank Wilson says there's one thing that does carry over from when Brian Kelly was on the sidelines that the Tigers will have to do to succeed.
You know, I think one of the keys for victory for us is that we will have to be able to run the ball. I think it's something that you have to invest in, and you can't just talk about it and say you're going to do it. You got to do it, and I think it helps us from a passing game standpoint to be more effective. I think it helps in holistically complementing your defense as well, and I think we have talented backs that can do it, but we had not made the total commitment to running it, whether it's Harlem, whether it's Caden, throughout the game. And when you look at as a unit, as a running back unit, when you run the ball less than 20 times, you make it challenging for yourself. And so we're going to try. We started off, I thought, in our last outing that we ran the ball effectively in the first half. Situation change. Scenario change that, we kind of abandoned and went to the pass game. We're going to try to go into this game plan, into this game, intentional on running the ball effectively. And I think we'll be able to turn to both Harlem and Caden in that regard and sprinkle in some Jawan here and there as well so that we're able to run the ball effectively.
Okay, so why the emphasis to run the ball against Bama? Because the Crimson Tide have been vulnerable there. They're ranked 12th in the SEC against the run. Wilson's been working with the backs and knows the Tigers have the talent to do it. Now it's all about just the execution and the commitment, as he mentioned, to getting it done on the ground and taking control of the game when it turns to the running offense. But what about the other side of the ball for LSU? Well, the defense has to be ready for Bama's air attack. They're ranked 2nd in the SEC for passing offense. We saw LSU get gashed by Ole Miss and by A&M through the air. But success for them might start up front with being even more physical, something Wilson addressed this week at practice by elevating the level of contact.
We're going to mix it up a little bit so we can see speed and physicality that when our defense sees it on Saturday, it's not shocking because of the look you've gotten all week has not been realistic.
That was probably one of the funnest periods I've had this year, because that's real football. We got 9 people on offense, 9 people on defense, 7 on offense, so we're outnumbered. So it's harder on us, but, I love the challenge. And, pads were popping today, and there was just such a high energy, and it made it so fun. I definitely love that they added that to the practice, for sure.
As a defense as a whole, we've come together and said, the last 2 games haven't been to our standard, and we want to get back to what we were doing at the beginning of the season. So that's been the main message.
Scott, if you read between the lines and listen to them, it sounds like there's been a lack of intensity and physicality at the practice until Frank Wilson took over with what the players are saying. He talked to Blake Baker about it. Blake Baker said, I need to see more physicality to evaluate what's going on. So they went to the 9-on-7 drill. And the players said they loved it. You like that move?
Yeah, I love it. It's shocking to me where the game has gone. I know a lot of emphasis is put on player safety and protecting guys, getting them from one game to the next healthy. But you also do them a disservice by not getting physical and doing full-speed things in practice to get your body acclimated to the game. I think that's why you see so many injuries. So the fact that these guys love it, I love it because they're football players. They're competitive men at nature. And this was just a normal Wednesday for us in the NFL. Every Wednesday was 9-on-7. So it's shocking to me that they weren't doing this. But their play when it comes to defending the run on Saturdays, especially against Vanderbilt in the last couple weeks, it showed. They needed this 9-on-7. And if anything, when you run the football offensively, it makes your defense tougher when you have a tough defense, it makes your offense tougher, and iron sharpens iron. So I think it'll help both the offense and the defensive running games.
Other side of the ball, Frank Wilson addressed the quarterback situation, said Nuss is our starter, but there are things that Michael Van Buren does well, and if needed, we'll be ready to use him. How much pressure is on Nuss to try to live up to? We've seen the sideline situations with him and Brian Wilson not getting along in each other's face. Kelly's gone now. Now it's Nuss taking over with Frank Wilson there. How much pressure is on Nuss to perform like people expected to see this season?
Yeah, I would think the pressure would be off of Nuss a little bit more. You have a different coach. It's not the same. You go into the season, I think there was a lot of pressure on this young man. Everybody's talked about him being a top 5 NFL pick. So now as a head coach, you want to make sure that this young man is put in that position to succeed. So you're telling the offensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator saying, we got to throw the ball a ton. We have to shine a light on him every single week. And I think that's why it was always default, pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. But you also do him a disservice by not having a running game. So I think the pressure is still on Nuss because he wants to be a high draft pick. He wants to play well. But I also think there's been a lot that's happened in between now and August. So just finish the season off strong, play your best football. And that's what they're going to remember you when you're talking about the NFL and all the scouts. They're going to remember how you play at the end of the season more so than the beginning.
Somebody's got to be a leader. We'll see if they can commit to the run tonight. You can watch games throughout the day, but wait for the primetime matchup tonight because that's when we will see LSU and Alabama. They'll kick off just after 6:30 in Tuscaloosa. Ty Simpson for Bama, over 2,100 passing yards. Look at the touchdown to interception ratio. What? But the Tigers, 10 interceptions this season. That's second in the SEC. You can enjoy the broadcast tonight on ABC. Well, the struggles for the Southern Jaguars have been real this season. Predicted to win the SWAC West. As they sit right now, they have one win on the season. It's not in the SWAC at all, so no conference games, and they changed coaches 3 weeks ago. So this afternoon, interim head coach Fred McNair takes his team to the reservation to take on the Braves from Alcorn State, a team that he is very familiar with.
You know, when you're going back and playing a school that you really went to school and graduated from and actually got 2 degrees from there, it's always tough with the fans and, you know, people screaming and hollering and you know, the players that you coach get a chance to see those guys again and just the emotional feelings sometimes get to you. But it's going to be the thing where I'm trying this week to not even bring that part up to the team. You know, it's not about me. It's not about me at all. It's about me preparing this university, the Southern University football program to go out and play a real good football game on Saturday. It's about those kids, preparing them to play.
Scott, one of the biggest issues, self-inflicted. Last week, 14 penalties for over 120 yards and 2 turnovers. You're beating yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at the struggle on special teams, then early in the year you had a lot of games with a lot of penalties. So it goes back to, it seems like when we talk about Southern this year, we've talked about a lot of hidden yardage. We've brought up that term a few times on this show. And when you don't play well on the special teams, you put your offense and defense at a disadvantage, and then you have penalties. They've been battling themselves all year long.
McNair talked about addressing those issues and trying to slow the game down for his players.
I think the guys are putting forth the effort, and I think sometimes they're pressing themselves, you know, to make it, to make that play. And at the same time, when you press yourself so hard to make a play, you're gonna make mistakes. And I think we just kind of smooth things over with those guys and kind of narrow it down to the best thing that we can do to get those guys to play really fast and not thinking so much. We talked about it in the staff meeting in terms of that. What can we do to make these guys, you know, play fast and not think so much? The biggest thing is for us is just to keep talking to these young men about doing the right thing, about staying together, which they are. They had a good spirit yesterday at practice, so I'm very excited about that. You know, it could easily be the other way. You know, as coaches always try, when you're having a down season and you're always trying to pick the guys up during the course of the week, but these guys, they rattled around yesterday, they ran around yesterday, so I was excited to see that. I was going to see how they was going to act yesterday at practice, and I think they responded to what I was expecting them to do.
Talented young athletes, just go out and play, don't outthink the room. So the Jags looking for win number 2, win number 1 in conference against Alcorn State, 2-3 in SWAC play. They lead the overall series, but the Jags have won 3 of the last 4 meetings. They will kick things off at the reservation 3 o'clock at Alcorn State. You can check out all the action on ESPN+. Staying in the SWAC, the Grambling Tigers looking to keep Big Mo on their side this afternoon when they host Bethune-Cookman. After knocking off number 1 Jackson State in Vegas 2 weeks ago, they struggled a bit last week before getting past Alabama A&M with a late punt return for a touchdown. Bethune-Cookman has owned this series, winning 4 of the last 5 times they've met, but the last game was played in Grambling, and the Tigers won that one. We'll see if they can make it 3 in a row. It's a 2 o'clock kick up at Grambling. If you're not going to the game up there off of I-20, kickoff, you can watch it at 2 o'clock on SWAC TV. How about the Bulldogs from Louisiana Tech? They will be on the road against Delaware. 2 straight coastal road trips for the Dogs. First, they go to face the Blue Hens. They're now in Conference USA this season, 4-4 on the year, 2-3 in conference play. A win for the Bulldogs makes them bowl eligible and gives them 6 on the season for the first time since 2019. Head coach Sonny Cumbie this week on the positive vibes his team has after their last dominating win over Sam Houston 1 week ago.
Coming off of a performance, our team is where we feel like we played complementary football pretty well on Saturday. Special teams, I think that there's a couple of things that we've got to clean up there in terms of our field goal operation, which that should always be automatic. A couple of decision-making things that we have to do better at in terms of returning the ball. And then I think, defensively, we gave up more yards than we wanted to, but they scored 14 points. And I think that we jumped on them pretty quick on offense. And I think so complimentary-wise, I thought we started the game well. And we've got to continue to do that because the challenges are always different, in terms of your opponent and then the venue. But I think that a lot of those things are they become an issue or they become something that the kids really think about or talk about if we make them an issue. We've been fortunate from the October standpoint of playing 3 games in a month in terms of our rest, and so we've been very fortunate. Our guys played on a Friday, and so going into this one, I think I feel really strong about it because we had Saturday, Sunday off. Monday, we came in, we had a walkthrough and meetings. I think after this, it'll really start to be a challenge. We have to be very smart in terms of our plan that we have as coaches, what we ask our kids to do from a physical standpoint, from a rest standpoint. We had 3 of the first 4 games of the season were at home, and we capitalized on that. And I think it's very important that 3 of the last 4 games of our season are on the road, and we have to capitalize on that and being a mentally tough team and making sure that the football team that played Friday night will travel Saturday.
Well, Scott, when you speak of the travel, they are at Delaware this afternoon. Then they come back to Ruston only to all the way go back to Washington State next week. How about those 2 back-to-backs? And then you're at home at Liberty before you face Missouri State. Yes, they need 1 win to get bowl eligible. And as much as we looked at the quarterback situation for Louisiana Tech earlier this season, Scott, we talked about LSU needing to run. Louisiana Tech's running the ball. They have 2 of the top 10 running backs in Conference USA, a big reason why they're seeing success.
Yeah, we've kind of seen that identity shift the last couple of weeks of saying, hey, we played really good defense early in the year. We were throwing the ball a little bit, trying to figure out our quarterback position. And now they've said, hey, let's play complementary football. Let's run the football, control the time of possession, make the other team make the mistake. And we've said it's a great job by Coach Cumbie and his staff, offensive staff, who they want to let it rip a little bit more than they are, but they're doing what it takes to win games, and that's a credit to them.
Clay Tevin and O'Mary Wiggins, the 2 running backs in the top 10. But for the Tech defense, they have a challenge this afternoon because you want to talk about slinging it. They're going to see it this afternoon against the Blue Hens from Delaware because they've got a quarterback you might not even know he's ranked top 6 in the country. We're talking about Nick Minicucci, number 1 in the conference, top 6 in the country in passing. He's 4th in the nation in total offense, 15 touchdowns through the air, Scott. He also has 8 touchdowns rushing. So for a defense, for a guy that can make all sorts of throws, what's the biggest challenge for Tech?
Containing him. He reminds me a lot of the Vandy quarterback we talked about when LSU played a couple weeks ago. Keeping him in the pocket. He's a prolific passer from the pocket, but he can make plays when he gets outside the pocket. So contain him, bottle him up a little bit. Defense needs to play well. I think Coach Cumbie's a little bit concerned. They've had a lot of home games. Now they have to play well on the road. The Kennesaw State game probably sticks in his mind a little bit.
It's an afternoon kick, and we'll see if the Bulldogs can indeed get to 6 wins on the season when they face Delaware. It'll be a fun one to watch on ESPN+. For the second time in 3 weeks, the McNeese Cowboys are on the road, this time in Commerce, Texas, to face the Lions from East Texas A&M. For the 3rd time this season, they have a chance to build a win streak. So far, they're 0-2 in that pursuit. Last week, the offense found success for the Cowboys, putting up a 50-burger. Now, for Matt Viator, the challenge is to bring that same focus back to the field 1 week later.
It's a cliche, but it is true. I mean, each game is really a season in itself. You start over every Sunday and then you work till Saturday. And I think for us, the thing I know that, Coach Saban used a lot, but, being at your best when your best is required. I think that some of these games that have been tit for tat on the road, we haven't been at our best, and our best has been required, and we haven't been that way. So I think in preparing to do that is the challenge for us, and to go on the road and play against a good football team that's certainly very capable, and, we need to be at our best, because our best is going to be required to win.
For whatever the reason, the Cowboys have been late to the game when playing away from Navarre Stadium. On the road, they're 0-4 and have been outscored 147-41 in the process. It's a 4 o'clock kick against East Texas A&M. We'll see if the Cowboys can bring their rushing game, which is second in the Southland. You can enjoy the broadcast on ESPN+. Well, the team McNeese got past 1 week ago, the Demons from Northwestern State, who have quite the challenge this afternoon on the road against the defending Southland champs in UIW. The offense has struggled mightily this season, averaging just 9.8 points per game, but don't fault the young quarterback in Abram Johnston. He ranks 8th in the conference in total offense. Last week, he had a pick, was sacked 3 times. Overall, the Demons have allowed 20 sacks this season. For Blaine McCorkle, it's all about improving on a consistent basis.
The key for our offense is just consistency, just consistency. Like I said, last week we had a great week of practice, and it didn't really show up on Saturday, but we've got to back up that week of practice again. That doesn't mean you don't have to practice hard this week, and put together a good plan and give him a chance to do some things that he's capable of doing, because he's very talented. He's tough, he's gritty, he's a competitor, and he can make plays. But we've got to, as a whole offense, be more consistent to give him the opportunity to do that, which in turn opens up opportunities for other guys.
They've had their moments. Can they now string together several moments to try to get a win this afternoon? They're going to be at home. It's an afternoon kick at 1 o'clock. E.J. Colson, he's second in the Southland Conference in terms of passing yards, so that'll be a challenge for Northwestern State's defense. Hopefully you get out there and enjoy the game and Natchitoches, but if you can't, you can sit back and watch the game on ESPN+. Well, Scott, the Raging Cajuns might have found their meal ticket for success. It's lunch Linfield. See what I did there? Look, I'm not sure how you can do any better than 1 week ago, but he has the Cajuns playing at a different level right now.
Yeah, and NIL deals are just lining up for lunch at the end of the season. He keeps playing the way he is. He brought a new confidence to this team. You can see every single week. We know he can run the ball, but last week, setting the school record, 93% completion percentage. If he adds this element to his game, this is a dangerous offense.
They host Texas State for the last time in conference. The Bobcats are headed to the Pac-12 next year. Try to make sense of that sentence. With players getting healthy, Michael Decimo seeing the continuity develop with his Cajuns on offense.
Yeah, we got guys that are making more plays. But I think as a whole on offense, we're playing, the last couple weeks in particular, we're playing a little bit better in the throw game. And it comes down to receivers, but the quarterback putting the ball in the right place, the protection's a lot better. Early in the year, it was just one off on everything. It was like when you finally kind of had the route depth and timing and everything, the protection was soft and you kind of got someone in your lap. So, it's coming together, obviously a lot later than we wanted it to.
But it's coming together, and that's the key. Texas State and Lafayette winless in conference play so far. And talk about getting healthy. Scott, Shelton Sampson, now that he's healthy, look at the numbers he's put up in the last few games.
He had his best game of the year last week, and he's really starting to develop that chemistry and that rapport with his quarterback, Lunch Winfield. That's a dynamic duo if they can get that going.
The Bobcats allowing almost 34 points a game. That's 10th in the Sun Belt Conference, so maybe a good sign for Louisiana's offense. With the way Lunch Winfield's been playing, guys getting healthy, Louisiana has to win out to get to 6 wins if they want to get to being bowl eligible, and they've got a shot to start that today with 3 games to go against Texas State. It's a 4 o'clock kick over there at Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium. Get out there and enjoy the game in person. If you can't see it, stay home and enjoy it on ESPN+. Yes, riding a lot of momentum from the teams from 1 week ago. A lot of big matchups that we have today. We're looking forward to all the action, and we'll be back tomorrow to wrap it all up. So enjoy the day of college football. For Scott Shanley, I'm Victor Howell. We'll see you tomorrow night, and until then, thanks for joining us on Game Notes on LPB. Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Southern University and A&M College, and Hargrove Engineers and Constructors, and the Romp Pew Agency, with additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Northwestern State University, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you.